Chanadana Jaya Girivarada Jaya Girivarada Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jai Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Shri Radha Damodar Ki Jai Jayam Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Brigajaya Astottara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Brigajaya Astottara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Devamrita Swamrita Namani Pujai Purva Lakshman Cha Bhakta Chandra Parantara Vikaranam Savich Tenama Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tenamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pujani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatare Shatanine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from the King of Books, the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the, not the 4th canto, hold on, the 6th canto, chapter 10, the battle between the demigods and Vritrasura. I think we've got text 5, and we'll also read text number 6. Shri Deva Uchu Kim Nu Tadustyajam Brahman Pungsam Bhutanu Kampinam Bhavad Vidhanam Mahatam Punyashlokedya Karmanam. Shri Deva Uchu, the demigods said, they're replying to Dadichi and his somewhat sarcastic response to their request that he give up his bones. Kim, what? Nu, indeed. Tat, that. Dustyajam, difficult to give up. Brahman, O exalted Brahmana. Pungsam, of persons. Bhuta anukampinam, who are very sympathetic toward the suffering living entities. Bhavat vidhanam, like your lordship. Mahatam, who are very great. Punya shloka idya karmanam, whose pious activities are praised by all great souls. So the question, which will come up in this chapter, are the demigods just buttering up the deity with their way of speaking to him? They're going to ask him. I mean, their motivation is pretty simplistic, and yet they're glorifying the deity for being beyond those sort of things. The translation says, by Srila Prabhupada, the translation, the demigods replied, O exalted Brahmana, Pious persons like you, whose activities are praiseworthy, are very kind and affectionate to people in general. What can't such pious souls give for the benefit of others? They can give everything, including their bodies. Text number 6. Nunam svarta paro loko na veda para sankatam yadi veda na yacheta neti naha yad ishvaraha. Nunam, certainly. Svarta para, interested only in sense gratification in this life or the next. Lokaha, materialistic people in general. Not. Veda, no. Parasankatam, the pain of others. Yadi, if. Veda, no. Not. Yacheta, would ask. No. Iti, thus. Na, aha, does not say. Yat, since. Ishvaraha, able to give charity. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Those who are too self-interested beg something from others, not knowing of others' pain. But if the beggar knew the difficulty of the giver, he would not ask for anything. Similarly, if he who is able to give charity does not know the beggar's difficulty, similarly, he who is able to give charity does not know the beggar's difficulty, for otherwise he would not refuse to give the beggar anything he might want as charity. Report. This verse describes two people, one who gives charity and one who begs for it. A beggar should not ask charity from a person who is in difficulty. Similarly, one who is able to give charity should not deny a beggar. These are the moral instructions of the Shastra. Chanakya Pandit says, Sannimite varam tyago vinashe niyate sati. Everything within this material world will be destroyed, and therefore one should use everything for good purposes. If one is advanced in knowledge, he must always be prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. At the present moment, the entire world is in a dangerous position under the spell of a godless civilization. The Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna consciousness movement and sacrifice their lives for the great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. Wow. Another banger from Srila Prabhupada, as usual. Every purport, such a strong directive to be Krishna conscious and to spread Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namamostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Just like the demigods recognize the superior quality of the Dichamuni and know he's inclined to sacrifice for the good of others. And they recognize that our motivation is not so selfless. We wish to maintain control of this particular section of the universe and to not be thwarted by this demon Vitrasara, which in the grand scheme of things is trivial. Still, they can appreciate that Dichimuni is of a superior quality. They appreciate, and yes, they are saying sincerely, praise of the Dichimuni's quality. And just like them, we perhaps are still attached to this material world, have some desire for some control, some profit, some adoration, some distinction. But if we can appreciate the remarkable quality of those devotees who sacrifice everything for the Lord, then we too can be saved. We can be elevated. We can transcend whatever superficial thing of this material world, which is vinashe, meant for destruction, and come to a higher level of Krishna consciousness. To that end, we are, of course, unlimitedly fortunate that we know anything about His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, who, perhaps when he was commenting on this verse here, maybe, I don't know, maybe he had a little bit of autobiographical self-reflection going on. It's a verse which superficially just seems about giving charity and asking for charity, and there's some difficulty involved. But Srila Prabhupada, in his ecstasy of Krishna consciousness, recognizes that the greatest charity to give is Krishna consciousness, and one should be ready to give everything for that. No matter what the content, Srila Prabhupada always directs us towards pure devotional service, unalloyed, sacrificial, selfless devotional service. Not only in the words that he's written in Srimad Bhagavatam, but with his entire life, of course, he's demonstrated exactly what he's writing here in this purport. This Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We only know of one person who just absolutely fits that bill, Srila Prabhupada. Of course, there are many, many exalted devotees, but who can match what Srila Prabhupada has done? Prabhupada is glorious and universally so, because of demonstrating exactly what he's writing here in this purport. Prabhupada sees this world in a dangerous position under the spell of a godless civilization, which is interesting because religion is everywhere, and actually it's increasing. According to the latest from Pew Research, one of the largest longitudinal studies about religious adherence around the world, shows that it's increasing everywhere. Only Christianity is kind of slipping, losing its footing a bit in some parts of America and in Europe. But actually, religious adherence is increasing all over the world, even in China, actually. They're saying it's very difficult to have accurate statistics in China, but there is enough evidence to show that despite communism and despite economic development, still religious adherence is increasing in China, which is fortuitous, which is something to be optimistic about. But try to consider the perspective of Srila Prabhupada. He still thinks this world is in a dangerous position under the spell of godless civilization, even if there is a lot of piety and devotion in this world. Definitely, even those people are under the spell, and perhaps even us, we're under the spell of a godless civilization. What is that spell? Consumerism. A sort of pretentious scientific atheism, speculative as it may be, it's influential in making people think that their entire lives is just the essence of their being has somehow crawled out of the mud, out of lifeless material elements, and will again become lifeless material elements. And so what does it matter? Pick up this gun and go and fight your neighbors for the profit of some ambitious capitalist. This is the spell of a godless civilization, and people are affected by it. They're under the spell of a mass consensual trance in the form of different types of popular media. Of course, in my youth, believe it or not, I'm not young anymore, but in my youth, TV was the terrible media, right? And parents would always say, oh, don't let your kids sit in front of the television, watch too much TV. Nowadays, it's nothing compared to the sort of media that kids are on 12 hours a day from the age of 9, wherein everything that they see and therefore everything that they know and believe is decided by some algorithm for the profit of a board somewhere. So this is the spell of a godless civilization. Even if there might be plenty of religious adherents, there is all over the world an increasing amount of devotion, offerings to God, but so many of us, including us, perhaps even including some of us listening here today, are affected by the spell of a godless civilization, like a witch who bewilders the mind and makes us think, yeah, you know what? What I want right now is very important. All of my needs, they're very important. And you know what? Krishna's just gonna have to wait. First, I gotta fulfill all of my needs, if that can ever happen. First, look out for number one. And Krishna could be a very close second. I love Krishna and I respect Krishna. He's definitely very close number two. But look out for number one. This is us being affected by the spell of a godless civilization. I'll sacrifice for Krishna later when I get older. Now, I'm still young. I've still got some energy. Let me do something. Let me do something interesting so that people will talk about me. This is the spell. Let me try to get a little more money. And when I have more money, then I'll be able to do something really nice for Krishna. But now, you gotta have some money first. That's just the state of the world. That's just how it is. This is us under the spell. Or maybe even some devotees are thinking, yeah, I've done a little bit in this life. And after all, Bhagavad Gita makes clear that, there's no loss or diminution, and I'll continue in the next life. Srimatam, Shuchiman, Srimatam Gehe, right? Yoga Brashta. What is it? Yoga Brashta Vijayate. And even if I don't make it all the way, in my next life, I'll be born in a family of someone who's very wealthy or some pious brahmanas, and I'll continue from there. So most important thing is me. That's the most important thing. That's the very definition of the spell of godless civilization. And in contrast to that, Srila Prabhupada is making clear that actually sacrificing everything for Krishna, that's exalted. And we can do it from 2 points of motivation. Chanakya Pandita is making clear that there's nothing else in this world because it'll all be destroyed. And Srila Prabhupada is making clear that this is the most exalted thing to do. When Chanakya Pandit says, Sannimite varam tyago vinashe niyate sati, it means that everything is going to be destroyed anyway. What's the point of building so many castles made of sand? Working so hard to get some name, some fame, some adoration, some profit, it'll all be destroyed. Like a sandcastle built on the beach, it is inevitable that it will be destroyed. Just like we cannot remember, or we just don't know very much about our great-grandparents. And we probably know nothing about our great-great-grandparents. Maybe someone prove me wrong. Raise your hand if you actually know something significant about your great-great-grandparents. And even if you have one little factoid, that's pretty much it. So similarly, this person, Yashodeva Das, will be completely forgotten within about 4 generations. Like completely wiped off the map, unless I do something so significant that I, earn a little bit of, a little note in a history book somewhere, maybe some footnote. And by the way, there was this guy and he had some position for a short time. And just for the sake of authenticity, we got to keep a list of all the names of people in that position, the end. That's the most you can aspire for in perpetuity of this life. That maybe you can be a footnote on a page somewhere. But just like we forgot, we don't know anything about our great-great-grandparents. So similarly, 4 generations from now, no one will know anything about us. Completely gone. Just as if we didn't exist in this body and in this form. So that's why Chanakya Pandit is saying, Sannimite varam tyaga vinashe niyate sati. Everything in this material world is going to be destroyed. Even the memory of this lifetime, of your life. Maybe your kids will know you. Maybe your grandkids will know you. You know, your great-grandkids? Probably not. Especially with the way Kali Yuga is going. Probably even your grandkids wouldn't even care. The way the world's going these days. So Chanakya Pandit says, so therefore, use everything for a good purpose. We have an opportunity to contribute to Krishna's lasting enterprises. But we'll waste time. Look out for number one. What about me and mine? What about my little castle made of sand? It's really important that I've got all this stuff and that I get more stuff. I got to get the space, and then I put stuff into that space. That's really, really important because, you know, when the demolitioners come later to tear this house down, they should just be able to look through all my crap and laugh. Thank you, Mataji. But otherwise, what are we doing? Just accumulating space and filling up that space with stuff so that it becomes somebody else's problem later. Chanakya Pandit says, Vinashe, sannimite, varam tyago vinashe. Vinashe means complete destruction. Niyate sati. All of this stuff is going to be destroyed. So why not do something that actually lasts? Krishna's name, fame, and glory will last forever. And we have an opportunity to contribute to that expansive enterprise by doing some devotional service, by preserving the service to the Lord in his deity form so that it remains in perpetuity as an inspiration and a congregation point for all of the devotees. That's something that lasts. It'll last much longer than us. And of course, as Srila Prabhupada says in this purport, to revive the God consciousness of human society, to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world, as he says here, that's something that lasts in perpetuity. Our name, our fame, our stuff will not last very long. In fact, you'll be lucky if your stuff lasts even the duration of your lifetime. Nowadays, of course, your stuff is designed to not last your whole lifetime. Planned obsolescence, a brilliant capitalist scheme. Hey, what if we just design stuff so that it breaks? And then they'll have to buy it again. Genius. Your stuff won't even last this whole lifetime. So then why work so hard for it? Why be so obsessed with it when we could be doing something to spread Krishna consciousness? To create a safe space for others to inquire about Krishna, to hear about Krishna, to grow in Krishna consciousness, and to shake off the spell of the godless civilization. That's the charity, as Srila Prabhupada is making very clear in this purport. That's the charity worth giving. And we should be ready to sacrifice everything for that, if we are so fortunate that Krishna would take away everything so we have nothing but service to Krishna. That would be a great fortune which many of us are probably not prepared for. Srila Prabhupada knows. That's why I often quoted the verse. Who knows that terrifying verse? Narada Muni says to Yudhishthir, for one who is especially favored by the Lord, anugrahaya. Oh, I got to look up this verse. It's one of those verses I don't want to remember because it scares me. What is it? Who knows the one I'm talking about? Harishe twaddanam shanai. Harisye twaddanam shanai. Oh, yeah. Here it is. It's in the 10th canto. Oh, no, it's the Lord himself actually speaks this. Yasyaham anugrinhami harishe tadhanam shanai tathodhanam tajantyasya Svajana dukkha dukhitam. It's the Lord himself. He actually says, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Harishye, that's what Hari means. Let's keep that in mind when we're saying Hari, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, it means he takes away everything. I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress after another. How is that a great fortune? The Lord goes on to say, when he becomes frustrated in his attempts to make money and instead befriends my devotees, I bestow my special mercy upon him. A person who thus becomes sober fully realizes the Absolute as the highest truth, the most subtle and perfect manifestation of spirit, the transcendental existence without end. In this way, realizing that the Supreme Truth is the foundation of his own existence, he is freed from the cycle of material life. So we should be so fortunate to be able to give everything for the cause of Krishna, like Srila Prabhupada did. We have the perfect, stunning example right in front of us. Srila Prabhupada did exactly that. Perhaps Prabhupada often quoted this verse because he felt that he received the Lord's special mercy in this way. As we know, his wife was unfavorable towards his bhakti, at least in some ways that we've heard, selling Srimad Bhagavatam just to get some biscuits, just to emulate the British Empire, get some tea and biscuits. I mean, imagine how embarrassing, actually. And in so many ways, Srila Prabhupada struggled. In his own words, Srila Prabhupada said that I had a plan to become a rich man and serve Krishna, but Krishna had another plan. This way, his business suffered some defeat. And then in even his attempts in doing outreach in India, experienced so much difficulty until Srila Prabhupada finally accepted the explicit order given to him by his spiritual master. You are meant to preach in the Western countries in the English language. Imagine getting on a steamship and sailing. I mean, most of us wouldn't get on a ship now. I've been on a ship, dear devotees. I don't know if you've ever been on a ship. It's not pleasant. It's not very nice. I had 7 days of seasickness in the Tasman Sea, just nonstop dry heaving over the side of a boat because it only takes a few hours before everything comes out of your guts anyway. But your body still goes through this motion for days. And then for several days afterwards, I had land sickness. I thought the captain was just being a jerk. He was joking about land sickness, but then it was true. For 2 more days, I'd be laying in bed and the whole room was just going like this. It's just absolutely horrible. All right? The Lord has made us to stand on land, not to fly in the air or sail across the ocean. Anyway, so picture Srila Prabhupada, elderly, older than most of us in this room, still getting on a steamship from India, having heart attacks, just having absolutely nothing except the name of one person in Butler, Pennsylvania. And just ready to sacrifice everything to spread God consciousness, just like so confident. And just as this verse is saying, that someone who has something to give knows how the beggar suffers, and so they give everything. Srila Prabhupada knows how much people are suffering under the spell of a godless civilization. Even if they may profess some piety, some religion, even if they have some genuine devotion, still suffering under the spell of a godless civilization. Prabhupada is such a giver of charity, so magnanimous. He doesn't even have to wait for the beggar to ask. That's someone who really gives charity. They don't wait for the beggar to ask. They know the beggar's difficulty. As it says in this verse, the demigods are saying, he who is able to give charity does not know the beggar's difficulty, for otherwise he would not refuse to give the beggar anything. Well, I'm saying that Srila Prabhupada does know the beggar's difficulty. He knows that the people of this world, they need Krishna consciousness, they need pure devotional service. They need something more than just religious platitudes and sentiment. Wonderful as it may be, and we respect, of course, the devotion of everyone from every culture all over the world. But just platitudes is not sufficient to get out of the spell of a godless civilization. It's not sufficient to make one a pure devotee, to go back home, back to Godhead. Religious platitude, might only be sufficient to keep one being born as a human again and again and again. There's no scripture that says, well, you just have some minimal amount of faith and then you go back to the spiritual world to be with God forever. One needs to become a pure devotee. Give up everything, give up all attachment to this world. Right? And follow in the footsteps of great devotees, isn't it? Mataji, Leela Kishori, didn't Jesus say, let he who calls himself my follower take up the cross and deny himself? Why deny yourself? Sannimite varam tyago vinashe niyate sati. This whole world is going to be destroyed. Your body is going to be destroyed. Everything with your name on it is going to be destroyed. Not just destroyed, but completely forgotten. As soon as you die, everyone will fight over it. And then you'll be completely forgotten. So if we have an opportunity to sacrifice for Krishna, to give something for Krishna, to give that charity to others so that they can be Krishna conscious, then that's actually worthwhile. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada is saying, the Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the whole world. It reminds me of one time my spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Swami, was having a bit of a laugh. At one year-end festival in New Zealand, we were talking about the book distribution marathon, which had just ended. And he was like distributing some books to this other devotee. They were like having this like a little mock play about it. And Gurudev, it's like, of course the devotee took the book and asked, so how much does it cost? And Gurudev said, we'll take your whole life. We want your whole life. So I think about that a lot. That's actually what we're trying to give here. Not just a couple of hours in a day, not just a little bit at the end of life, but Srila Prabhupada's demonstrating giving the whole life. So Prabhupada's asking for exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna consciousness movement and sacrifice their lives for the great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. As Srila Prabhupada says explicitly here, men and women. Because if we see that the real important thing is to spread Krishna consciousness, then any way of doing it is exalted and wonderful. Including, heaven forbid, it's done through the mouths of women. But of course, as is always the case everywhere, there's always some old men who think it's more important to maintain their status than to actually help people. But that's a whole nother discussion, which we won't get into now. Srila Prabhupada has said explicitly here and in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila chapter 7 that we are equally engaging both men and women in the service of spreading Krishna consciousness. But of course, some disciples think that they know better than Srila Prabhupada and therefore try to prohibit women from doing all the same service. Hare Krishna, we can discuss that some other time, of course. We're getting back to Srila Prabhupada's incredible sacrifice that he's demonstrated. We should think about it every single day. Srila Prabhupada's sacrifice, he's showing, what does it mean to sacrifice? Prabhupada sacrificed sleep. I mean, what more can you do than that? Literally, resting hardly a few hours from midnight until maybe 2 or 3 a.m. And then while we are all in the lap of the witch called Maya, unconscious, dreaming about sense gratification, Srila Prabhupada is up translating Srimad Bhagavatam so that we can read it. Can we reciprocate with Srila Prabhupada's effort to produce this pure devotional literature? I mean, can we just match even a fraction of Prabhupada's effort to produce the books by reading them and by giving them to somebody else to read them? That's sacrifice. That's what's meant when it says sacrifice your life. That's what Srila Prabhupada did. Because he knew during the day, I'm just so busy, guiding others and spreading this Krishna consciousness movement and managing so many things, We have to remember in Srila Prabhupada's time, practically all of his followers were teenagers, at least for many years, And then there was Amalabhakta Swami, who was like 30 when he joined Krishna consciousness. And everybody would joke about how he was an old man because he was 30 years old. So Prabhupada was managing all of this. And he knew the only time that I can really dedicate to focusing on translating the Sanskrit of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bengali of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and giving purports that'll be clear and effective and making pure devotees. He knew I've got to sacrifice sleep to do that. What to speak of sacrificing everything else? Women, money, and possessions, and that stuff he sacrificed a long time ago. Even he showed towards the end of his life, there's always more to sacrifice. Sacrifice your sleep to serve Krishna more, to hear and chant about Krishna. So we have such a flawless example in Srila Prabhupada. And I think that when he's writing this purport, of course he's not going to say, that's what I did. But while writing this purport, he's actually implying, that's what I've done. Just, it is possible. We don't have to imagine some sort of superhuman. Well, I mean, perhaps Srila Prabhupada is superhuman. I don't know. It's not for me to judge. It's beyond me. We don't have to imagine some sort of fantasy mythological creature. We see Srila Prabhupada. We know his standard of sacrificial devotional service. We should contemplate it every day as we're singing. Shri Guru Charana Padma. We should be thinking about Srila Prabhupada's standard of devotional service. Otherwise, what is the use of all these castles made of sand? Vinashe. It's all going to be destroyed. Everything will be gone. Completely forgotten. Useless endeavor. Might as well have just been zero. But if we perpetuate Krishna's fame, Krishna's service, and dare I say, even spread some seeds of love of Krishna that will grow and continue to manifest forever and ever. And that's something that we can really be proud of. When death is grabbing us by the neck and saying, time to go, time to let go of all your stuff. You say, well, I've made a permanent impact in this world by serving Krishna, by expanding Krishna's enterprises. That's what we can hope for. That's the charity we can hope to give and be confident that I've given my best for Krishna. So it's amazing that from what might seem like a verse about moral codes, about begging and giving in charity, Srila Prabhupada always points us towards pure devotional service. Absolutely remarkable. Srila Prabhupada's ability to do that. Hare Krishna. Of course, we'll hear through the rest of this chapter about Dadichi Muni, and he demonstrates, of course, sacrificing everything, even his body. So what's the big deal? I don't even need this body. If the Lord wants me to give it up for his service, then I'll absolutely do it. And in this way, of course, the Lord is glorifying Dadichi Muni, reciprocating with his devotion, and giving instruction to the demigods, and indirectly to us, that actually our pursuits in this world are so trivial. Some demon Vitrasara, yeah, all right, sure, we got to maintain some cosmic order, whatever. But the most important thing is, dear demigods, you should see Dadichi Muni's sacrifice, how he's ready to give anything for the service of the Lord. That's the principal purpose of the Lord always. Right? Paritranaya sadhanam. That's his first, that's his prerogative. First is to glorify the devotees, to help others to become pure devotees. Paritranaya sadhanam. Then vinashaya chatushkritam. That stuff, yeah, okay. Secondary. So the Lord is demonstrating to demigods, you should see what real devotion looks like. You've offered these nice prayers, and I'm impressed. But now go to Dadichi Muni and see what it means to really sacrifice for a greater cause. And so the demigods, they're recognizing that in this glorification of Dadichi. So we should similarly recognize in glorification of Srila Prabhupada that we're still very much attached to our playthings of this world. despite the time limit on them. It's all a ticking time bomb waiting to be completely destroyed, and we're still very much attached to it. But if we can appreciate Srila Prabhupada's sacrifice, how he gave his life for us to be Krishna conscious, then maybe we can take one step towards that ideal, maybe even 2 steps. So this whole pastime is very instructive for all of us, I believe. We can relate to these demigods. We can relate. And we can relate because we're attached to the things of this world, and we can relate because just like they are so fortunate to have the association of Dadichi Muni, we are unlimitedly fortunate to have the association of Srila Prabhupada. And do not be confused. When we read Prabhupada's purports, that's associating with Srila Prabhupada. Sure, many of us would like to sit next to him and do his laundry or cook something for him and serve him in so many ways. That would, of course, be nice. But if Srila Prabhupada were here right now, 7:45 a.m. in Pennsylvania, what would he be doing? What would he be doing? What would he be saying? What would he be talking about? Exactly what we're reading in these purports. We have the opportunity to associate with Srila Prabhupada every time you open Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what he would be saying. He'd be talking about Krishna. So perhaps we're more fortunate than these demigods. They only had a short time to associate with the Dadichi Muni. They had a short time to assimilate the lesson. And whether or not they got the lesson, I don't know, we'll find out in upcoming verses. Indra will eventually get the lesson, pretty much at the end of the fight with Vitrasura. He'll finally get it. But here we get to associate with Srila Prabhupada anytime we like, by opening Srimad Bhagavatam and reading the purports, where he's poured his heart and soul, his devotional ecstasies. So in that sense, we're even more fortunate than the demigods. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, who has reconciled all doubt about what is possible in Krishna consciousness by his standard of behavior and service. It is not mythology. It is not imagination. Srila Prabhupada has demonstrated sacrificing one's whole life for devotional service. We can just hope to follow in his footsteps. And if we are completely forgotten, if this life and all of its possessions eventually turn into dust, right? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, so be it. If we can perpetuate Krishna's enterprise just a little bit, then we'll have a lasting impact on this world and push back the spell of godless civilization. That is our aspiration, dear devotees. Hare Krishna. Should finish there, and I suppose you can ask if there's some comments, anything that the devotees would like to say or to add in any way. If you like, please feel free to do so. And then we should, of course, say something about Gopal Bhatta Goswami, whose appearance day is today. Appearance day? Yeah. Is it the appearance day? I think so. Today is the appearance day of Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami, the disappearance day of Ramachandra Kaviraj, who I don't know much about. But Gopal Bhatta Goswami, well, just in brief, I'm not so much of an expert, of course, but we do owe so much to the 6 Goswamis. Vande Rupa Sanatana, Raghu Yugo, Sri Jiva Gopalaga. So I'm talking about the Shastra, right? Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipano, Sadharma Samstapako, Lokanam Hitakarino Tri Bhuvane. That Srila Prabhupada is following the example of the 6 Goswamis, that they scrutinizingly studied all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all living beings. Lokahitam, out of kindness to all living beings, they produce so much Krishna conscious literature so that we can understand Krishna very clearly, without any doubt. So we are indebted, of course, to each of the 6 Goswamis in so many ways. Gopal Bhatta Goswami especially also demonstrated this life of sacrifice because his father, Venkatabhatta, was an associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by good fortune, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to their home when Gopal Bhatta was just a little boy Gopal. And the Lord blessed him by taking him upon his lap and saying so many wonderful things, of course, giving him so many blessings, and actually told him, even as he was a little boy, that you should serve your parents faithfully and very kindly. And when they depart, come to Vrindavan and meet me. And that's exactly what Gopal Bhatta did. He was always a very dutiful and faithful servant of his parents and his family. And actually, when his parents were nearing their departure from this world, when death was coming, they gave him blessing. Please leave now and go to Vrindavan and join Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he asked you to do, as he advised you to do. And so Gopal Bhatta, as a young man, went to Vrindavan, was disappointed to find that Lord Chaitanya was no longer there. He had left, but Rupa Goswami was there, and he sent word to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that now Gopal has joined us here in Vrindavan. And the Lord reciprocated by sending back with a messenger, like a piece of wood that he sits on. It's hard for me to visualize this, but it's like a seat and some cloth, which Gopal worshipped dutifully in Vrindavan. The 6 Goswamis were there in Vrindavan. They were performing, great austerities and sacrifice, and becoming highly qualified, of course, to set the foundation for Krishna consciousness, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, to spread all over the world. Of course, in doing so, they were bathing in the gopis' love for Krishna, right? As it says in the song, Gopi Bhava Rasamritabdi Lahari Kalola Magnao Muhur, all day and all night, just constantly in the ecstasy of the gopis' love for Krishna, even though superficially it looked like they were very austere, just living with a loincloth, eating 2 or 3 chickpeas and a palm full of buttermilk. But actually, they're bathing always and repeatedly in the waves of the ocean of the gopis' love for Krishna. So this is how Gopal Bhatta spent his time in Vrindavan, waiting for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there's a remarkable thing that happened, which many of you know the story, but if you don't, even if you do, you'll love to hear it again. That Gopal Bhatta, he was advised in a dream by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go to Nepal. I don't know if it was called Nepal at the time, maybe it was. Anyway, he went up there and he bathed, of course, in the famous Kali Gandaki River, which is where the Shalagram Shilas, the form of the Lord that's worshipped, is acquired. And while bathing in there, he dipped his water pot into the river, and it was full of these Shalagram Shilas, these little forms of the Lord that the devotees worship. And he's like, oops. He poured them back out, and he scooped some water again, and again they're all back inside. And he said, okay, 3rd time's a charm. And so he poured them out, and he just dipped his water pot into the river, and apparently the Shalagram Shilas like jumped inside. So he took that as a clear sign. I need to worship Shalagram Shila and establish that as a principle for our Gaudiya Vaishnavas as well. And so he brought these Shalagram Shilas back to Vrindavan. And as many of you know, he was worshiping these forms of the Lord. If you haven't seen Shalagram Shila, dear devotees, they're a form that is round shape, very dark stone, and oftentimes they have these beautiful markings on them to indicate the different avatar forms of the Lord. And those markings are actually created by these interesting living entities that chew through the stone. Really beautiful, really wonderful way to serve the Lord. And so Gopal Bhatta was worshipping these Shalagram Shilas in Vrindavan, and there was some wealthy man who came who gave lots of ornaments for his worship of his deities. He gave Gopal Bhatta clothing and flute and so many other things, which doesn't really work with the Shalagram Shila form because it's a roundish stone. And so Gopal Bhatta would often be praying, oh, it would be so nice if I could put clothes on you, and if I could put this flute upon you and put jewelry on you, Lord. And he would pray like this. In fact, he prayed especially on the day of Nrsimha Chaturdashi. Wouldn't that be so wonderful if I could serve you in this way? But his prayer was very sincere, and the Lord reciprocates with sincerity, and miraculous things are possible. I have experienced actually a miracle happening while worshiping Shalagram Shila, although I can't tell you all exactly what happened, but it was miraculous. So similarly, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, he pray to the Lord in this way. He wanted to serve, and by offering clothes and by offering jewelry and by giving the flute. And so he put his shalagram shilas to rest literally just by putting a basket on top of them. A very simple but sincere devotion. You just give whatever you have to Krishna. And then the next morning he went to bathe, and when he came to see his deities, the world famous, remarkably beautiful, stunning manifestation of Radharamanji was there, where his shalagram shilas had been. In fact, the form of Radharaman, which is so exquisite, and his Tribhangananda, threefold bending form, bending at the neck, at the waist, and at the knee, holding the flute to his lips, this form just manifested. In fact, you can still see where the Shalagram Shila, like where it came out of the Shalagram Shila, the form of the Shalagram is still on the rear of the deity form of Radharaman. It's named Radharaman by the other Goswamis, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And of course, Radharamanji is one of the most famous, wonderful temples in Vrindavan Dham, where you can go and see the worship. There's always loud kirtan going on all the time. Very, very loud, very ecstatic kirtan. It's just such a special place to be because of such a special deity manifested in that form, just to reciprocate with Gopal's desire, Gopal Bhatta's desire to serve. Srila Prabhupada had a very strong desire to make Krishna consciousness manifest in the Western world, and the Lord reciprocated by sending people to him. That was Prabhupada's own admission. So similarly, we can only hope to have such a strong and sincere desire that Krishna just has to reciprocate. And if our desire is so strong to serve Krishna, he can do that. So let's remember these examples today of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, of Srila Prabhupada. We are so blessed to have such a wonderful heritage of examples of pure devotional service, so pure that even Krishna himself has to come down here and give that pure devotee what they want, because what they want is pure devotional service. That's the example we should aspire for, not aspiring to build our own little shadow empire, which will just disappear within a few generations after our death. We should hope to have a life dedicated to giving something so sincerely to Krishna. Just like Gopal Bhatta Goswami has given us so much literature. I can't even remember. What are the books that Gopal Bhatta Goswami wrote? So much about worshiping deities, I believe, especially the, what is it? The name is slipping my mind now because I don't do a lot of deity worship. Anyway, lots of incredible literature is made by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Hare Krishna consciousness. I finished saying what I can about this verse and purport, and hopefully giving due credit to his divine grace. Any comments or questions for our 2 minutes before we are kicked out of this Zoom room?
Hey, I'd like to thank you for a great class. That was stellar. Really, really nice. Always nice to hear discussion and glorification of my favorite person, Srila Prabhupada. You quoted a little from Sri Sri Shad Goswami Yastika. And in there, it is also stated, what is that? Nijrahara Viharakadi Vijato Chatyanta Dina Chayo. That the 6 Goswamis,
they gave up sleeping, they gave up eating.
Yeah, eating, sleeping. And Srila Prabhupada, as you pointed out, Srila Prabhupada also demonstrated this extraordinary level of devotion. Everyone's probably heard my story numerous times by now, but maybe some have not heard it. That in the time that I was with Srila Prabhupada, he was not sleeping at all. Completely gave up sleep, and I was with him around the clock, and I saw that he did not sleep. I did see him lie down to rest his body, and while lying down, he would be chanting japa, sometimes silently, but the beads would still be moving, but he was not actually sleeping.
Hmm.
Um, Hari Sari's diary indicates that Srila Prabhupada was resting between his evening darshan. After the evening darshan, he would take rest until maybe midnight or so. He would get up. But I was there. I watched Hari Sari take rest after the evening darshan, and he didn't know what went on after that. But every single day, as soon as Hari Sari left Srila Prabhupada's room, immediately Srila Prabhupada would come out of his bedroom and begin his translating. So Hari Sari was not aware. He didn't see what Srila Prabhupada was doing, but Srila Prabhupada had given up resting in the evening. He was just immediately beginning his translation. So sometimes as early as 11 o'clock in the evening, or 10:30, he would already have begun his translating.
Incredible.
Uh,
And till the very end. Of course, I'm sure
yes,
everyone has
and
seen the picture of Srila Prabhupada literally on his deathbed, still translating, commenting, right in chapter 13 of the 10th canto. It's always a hard chapter for me to read because we know that these are Srila Prabhupada's last purports. It's just really amazing.
and he was living on just a little bit of charanamrita each day. He had completely given up eating, just a tiny amount of, like a teaspoon of charanamrita.
Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada makes clear that we can sacrifice. There should be no doubt about it. We can sacrifice everything. We can do it. But we're like these demigods. At least we're appreciating those devotees who are sacrificial. That's a good step in the right direction. But someday, of course, we should try to become just like Srila Prabhupada's standard of sacrifice, giving everything to help people be Krishna conscious. So thank you, Taraka Prabhu, for sharing. We should never ever tire of hearing of Srila Prabhupada's glories. It's the never-ending story because it's so wonderful and so universal. You know, we can argue about so many things, right? It's Kali Yuga. Even within our Krishna consciousness movement, we argue about so many things, and that's fine. But nobody has any doubts about the glory of Srila Prabhupada. Not just within our community, but even worldwide. Nobody has any doubts about Srila Prabhupada. So let's keep that in the center. Hare Krishna. All right, we should finish here. It's a full day of devotional service ahead of us. I mean, for all of you, for me, it's barely a few hours of devotional service, and then Maya. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuga Shri Jiva